Thank you. I really enjoyed the film. It was very dark and very intense, the kind of slow burn thriller that is right up my alley. So thank you. I want us to kind of get us started asking you how you became involved in this project. What drew you to it initially?
Great question. This was an original film that my company Witchcraft started developing back in 2016, kind of a TRIBECA Film Festival, and it had these like different inception or these different origins. Like the first beginning for the reason why we wanted to make this film was like I wanted to some fantasy fulfillment. I thought like, man, it would be nice to end up with a lot of cash, and to be able to do whatever you wanted with it. And then really once I started thinking about that, from there I thought about what it might take to have to go through to end up with a lot of cash, and what bad things might arise from that. And of course, like then the fantasy fulfillment part left, and now it became this story about and then that turned into this story about the types of situations that people who have economical and financial duress put themselves in to try to take care of their families. And I grew up in a very rural part of America and know a lot of people that are good people that have been, sort of sold this myth of the American dream, and they don't know what to do to support their families. And they especially don't know what to do to support their families when they see other worse people getting ahead with no repercussions and no consequences. And so they're left kind of rowing up, especially as we saw, the results of that presidential election that year, and the ways that people in this country were starting to suffer more and more as the divide between the haves and the haves not grew. And then especially as people that had nothing saw the people, quack like a look like a crime, smelled like a crime. It was a very it's a very weird way into developing this story, but then it became this other thing that felt very important or very prescient, even though it's obviously set in the 90s.
Yeah, I found that to be kind of a fascinating angle of the film too. I did want to jump to this very start of the film. You start with that very kind of jarring shot, kind of setting the tone of what's to come. How did you manage to strike a tone that was kind of seedy and dark and intense, but not overwhelmingly bleak, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that does. Thank you for feeling that way. I mean, I think that what you just described was my intention always, which was, and also not to make, I don't know, not to make it, I don't know, dour, or not to fetishize people of a certain socioeconomic class or a certain part of the country. People have to work a certain way. Um, Really, like that opening shot though does set the tone for the language of the movie, right? And the pace and information reveal. Hey, we're going to show you something, and the shot's going to evolve, and we're going to learn more things. And as we learn more things, the story, that's going to inform what's going on in the story. I think that the you know we lucked out with a lot of our locations. These are real places that this incredible location around us that were very lived into. Like we were looking for places that felt like they were teeming with life. So bleakness, some sense of information, or decrepit, or I don't know, like a place you wouldn't, that doesn't have any life. And yet, like all of our locations are teeming with life, even if it's Detroitus or broken down details. They are, not the cinematography per se, but the location design, production design was to find these places that felt like they really had they'd been lived in, and you could imagine they were not, I don't know, void of life, even if that life is dying a little bit on screen.
Yeah, I think that adds to the kind of world building of your movie, that it really feels lived in. I guess kind of speaking to that as a final question, I got the 5 minute warning there. As a final question, there's a lot of
It's okay.
backstory from the characters that is implied or occurs before the film starts with Meridian and everything like that. How do you tackle a challenge like that when so many events integral to the main plot are told, or I guess occur before the start of the film?
Yeah, so I try to leave breadcrumbs, right? Like I try to like sprinkle those details throughout, and really asking like an audience member or a viewer to be really engaged. And that is because I love cinema, and I've always loved movies that do this, where they ask you to be sort of a first class viewer. They say, man, sit up, pay attention. Like, we're going to give you these things. It's not going to be spoon fed to you, but like by the time you get to the end, all of these things will have been given to you. And like, I want you to, I don't know, wrap your head around them. I just love films that treat audience members as intelligent people that want to be there. I think, like, you know, the contentification of the form is like destroyed, like is destroying cinema. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, like, I'd love to watch more movies like this. Personally, I think a lot of people like, and that like do this inherently. So I'm just, you know, trying to be a part of that tradition, I guess.